there, nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with another episode of Cheap Shots. Cheap Shots is the series that we show you how to save money on the miniatures wargaming hobby. And on today's episode, we're doing something a little bit different. As you guys can see, I'm doing a screen recording right now on my Mac, as you guys can see. And usually whenever I do a Cheap Shots, what I like to do is I like to do a painting tutorial in most cases, because that's the best way I know to help out miniature wargamers save a lot of money on their miniatures. I know a lot of people like to do painting of miniatures as well, but the problem is a lot of the paint that's available out there for miniatures, from Citadel, from Army Painter, etc. I mean, they're all really great products and they do exactly as advertised. The only problem is they're pretty pricey, and that could be a huge hit to the bank, especially if you're just starting to get into miniatures wargaming. You know, you're spending money on miniatures and now you're spending additional money to paint up those miniatures, and it could cost you a lot of money if you're not too sure what to look for. That's why I like to advocate for using cheap craft paints like Apple Barrel as well as Folk Art, because you can get these paints at your local Walmart or your local Hobby Lobby, and they're like half a dollar, 50 to 75 cents at the most, I think, in some cases. So because it helps you save a lot of money and actually get this, you know, pretty decent tabletop standard as well. Now, on today's episode, though, we're not going to do a painting tutorial on this one, because on this one instead, what I was thinking about doing is actually doing a series of cheap shots where we actually talk about using miniatures and how you could use those miniatures for different gaming systems. And the reason why I came up with this idea is because of these bad boys are now hitting the open market. These guys right here, of course, are from the World Eaters line of Warhammer 40,000 made by Citadel. And these guys, of course, are Khorne Jakhals. Now, from what I've noticed about the promotional materials associated with the Khorne Jakhals, these guys are supposed to be like Khorne worshippers. These are just normal chaos cultists, and what they do is they actually get souped up on performance enhancing chemicals. As you see on their back, they got these chemical tanks that fill them up with combat drugs, with stimulants, with steroids, and all kinds of crazy stuff, so that would become frothing berserkers. And as you can see, these guys are pretty much just packing chain weapons, chain axes, chain swords, chain glaives, and they just pretty much just charge chain fists like this guy here, and they just charge forward in a close combat. They just wail on people and just slice up and pretty much use as cannon fodder for the World Eaters armies. And one of the things I noticed about this is that I actually put this up on one of my posts on my channel, and I was talking about like how these guys would make pretty cool corpse grinder cultists, I thought, because of the way they looked. And one of my viewers, Dr. Drybrush, was talking, he's the name of the channel, he suggested maybe you should do a video about how you can make these into other gangs for Necromunda. And that actually inspired me to actually do a series of videos where we actually talk about using box sets of miniatures and using them for multiple games and different applications, and how you could basically do that. Because the ultimate dream for any miniatures wargamer out there is that using a set of miniatures that you have, but not just using it for one set of games, but using it for multiple set of games. So that way you can, you know, have really good cost effectiveness with the miniatures that you're using. And that's what I was thinking about, using not just one box set for, let's say, Warhammer, like in this case, but using it for like Necromunda, or maybe for Kill Team, or for any kind of skirmish game at all that will have this kind of grim aesthetic. You know, what games could you use it for, and how could you possibly equip it for that gaming system? And so because of that, it's kind of got my ideas, well, I got the juices flowing in my brain, and got me thinking about all these different ways you could use different kits in different games, so that way you can get the most out of your miniatures. So in today's episode, we're going to be focusing on specifically on these guys, the Khorne Jakhals, and how you guys could use these in your games of Necromunda and Kill Team, as well as Warhammer 40,000. So these are the video we'll be talking about today. Let's get this video review on a roll. So the very first thing we're going to talk about is what game systems could you use these Khorne Jakhals for. And I actually brought up this little promotional artwork over here from the Warhammer community page as well. So let's go and talk about this real quick. So the idea of this series is that with one box set of miniatures, what kind of games could you actually play these guys in, and how could you best use them? So we're going to assume, because at the time I actually made this video, these guys are not available yet to purchase, but let's assume that these guys cost $50. I think $50 is a good kind of assessment to have for these guys. Hopefully they're less, but I think $50 is a good medium price value to go with these guys, 50 American dollars. So let's talk what you guys can use these for. So as you can see in this video, you actually get 10 of these guys, which is kind of cool. So let's talk about what it consists of. So it looks like we have our leader here, which is this guy armed with this looking chain glaive looking thing. Looks like he's also got a wrecking ball for a weapon. We got a guy who's also a icon bearer as well. It looks like we have like a champion character of some sort, because he's got a chain fist as well as a chain sword. And of course, we have this guy here carrying this huge, like, eviscerator style, two-handed chainsaw looking weapon as well. So I'm gonna imagine that these four guys here are just basically the command group and weapon options for a squad, while the other, 6 members of the team are just normal guys wielding chain axes and chain swords and just, causing all kinds of problems and just being your typical fighters in this one. So with that in mind, there's actually several games that you could probably use this for. Obviously, the first game you can use these guys for is for Warhammer 40,000. So I'm not sure what scale of game that you play at Warhammer 40,000, but we definitely know these will be part of the World Eaters army faction that's now available for 40k. So you'll be able to use it for that. So that's one type of game system that you can use it for. Another thing that's also happening too is that the boarding actions battle system is starting to become very popular, especially with the Arcs of Omen that have coming out. So now we have rules about how to do boarding actions on ships in the warp, in the void space, and I guess possibly the warp of Warhammer 40k. It's a much smaller scale. It's a little bit larger than Kill Team, but it's something that you can use on a much smaller scale and actually have lots of fun with, as you can see in this picture here. So if you decide to play 40k boarding actions where you find a much smaller scale, you could definitely use these guys for that. I can imagine these guys would be great for assaulting through and causing all kinds of problems that way. So in fact, my gaming group and I are actually thinking about maybe we should do boarding actions, because we do have a couple of 40k miniatures and they're just kind of collecting dust right now. So that actually might be kind of something fun we might do for ourselves. So that's 2 games, Warhammer 40k for sure, as well as boarding actions. Now, I'm not really familiar with the Kill Team rules. I haven't played Kill Team since the last edition of Kill Team that came out. To be perfectly fair, when I looked at this current edition of Kill Team, I saw that instead of using numbers for distances and things, they're using shapes like circles and squares and triangles, and it's like, dude, just put down 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches. Just use numbers, you guys. Use math. But it was kind of weird, so it kind of turned me off. But anyways, I'm not sure what the current Kill Team rule sets are, but I imagine you could probably use these guys for a Chaos Cultist kill team of some sort. Granted, it'd be a very close combat-oriented kill team, but that's something that you might look forward to as well. So that puts you within 3 gaming systems. We have Kill Team, we have Warhammer 40,000, Warhammer boarding actions. Now, the one I'm really going to focus on, because this is a game I know quite well with its rule sets and everything else, is Necromunda. So you could definitely use this Jackal team for Necromunda. And so the objective on this video is, could you use this one single box and purchase nothing else, just this one box, and could you make, what kind of gangs could you make with it for Necromunda? Now, looking at the aesthetic and the equipment these guys are coming with, and I'm assuming this is pretty much just the general options that these fighters can come with, I'm going to say that you could basically make 2 different gangs with this. I mean, not 2 different gangs, 3 different gangs with this set. So let's talk about what those 3 gangs are. The first gang I would probably use these guys for, which should be pretty obvious, is a Chaos Hellot Cultist gang. You can make a Chaos Hellot Cultist gang with this group, make it a very close combat oriented group because of all the chain weapons that they actually have. And of course, have these guys be dedicated to the Chaos God Khorne and use them in your campaigns in Necromunda if you want to go that route. A second type of gang that you could actually play with these guys would be a Slave Trader Outcast gang. And I'll talk about exactly what that would consist of here in a second. These 4 members up here in the front, the guy with the icon, the guy with the wrecking ball, this guy with the chain fist, and this guy with the larger chain glaive, these 4 would actually be your delegation for an Slaver Outcast gang. These would be your 2 pit fighters in the back here. This would be your Lord of Chains, and this would be your Shackle Man over here. And the rest of these guys would be your typical outcast fighters who are fighting for your gang. That's a possibility you could have for these guys. And probably the third gang that you probably play these guys is a Corpse Grinder Cult gang. And the reason why I would say that is because, for obvious reasons, they got chains, so chain blades and stuff like that, so they could possibly be that as well. And that's be a kind of like a cool way to differentiate between, like, let's say, a chain cleaver and a heavy chain cleaver. You could say that the chain axes are heavy chain cleavers, while the chain swords are just normal chain cleavers instead. So those are some examples of some things that you can actually do with this gang. And in fact, I've actually made several lists talking about exactly how you can go about making these gangs cool as well. Now, on a fourth one, now this one's kind of a stretch, but you could actually use these guys as part of a Corpse Grinder Cult delegation gang. I don't know if you could actually use these guys as corpse grinders themselves specifically. Just because you know, you have the Pale Consort, and you also have the Bone Scrivener. They look a little bit different, so I don't know if you could actually do it. I mean, you definitely could if you wanted to. There's nothing stopping you, really. But you could actually use these guys as probably outcast fighters in a Corpse Grinder Cult Sorry, not Corpse Grinder Cult, and a Corpse Guild Outcast gang as well. But don't worry, we're actually going to show you guys some examples of some lists that I actually came up with just using this one box set to create this with. I've actually made a list involving just 1,000 credits, assuming that you're just staying in the Underhive for some of these lists, because I'm just imagining that you're not buying anything else if you don't want to. If you want to actually go out to the Ash Waste and actually buy vehicles for this gang, you could actually look at my various videos. I have a lot of content that I made about vehicles and lists that you can make for using vehicles in the Ash Waste. You could definitely check those out. But for these lists, I'm just assuming that you're going to stay in the Underhive just because it would cost you the least amount of money to actually purchase a gang to do that, and that's what we're going to be talking about. So what we're going to be focusing on next is exactly what gangs can you make out of this one box set for your games of Necromunda. So let's go ahead and start talking about the Slave Outcast gang. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about exactly what your gang would look like if you decided to actually use this gang for the Underhive and you wanted to make these guys into a Slaver Outcast gang. So here's the picture of the characters that we have according to the product box set, and this is the list I have here written out on a Word document, so let's go and talk about that what consists of. So your Slaver Outcast gang will be a delegation gang using a Slaver entourage as the core of your gang as well. And this gang will cost you 1,000 credits to do this, and to make this gang all you need is one box set of Jakhals. So let's go and talk about that real quick. So first of all, you're going to have your Chain Lord, who's going to be the leader of your gang. He's going to cost you 280 credits. In this situation, this guy here will be your Chain Lord. So let's talk about what he's going to have. First of all, you're going to give him the Survivor archetype, because every single time you pick a leader for an outcast gang, you give him an archetype of some sort. He's got light carapace armor, so we give him a 4-up armor save. He's also going to come with a chain axe and shock whip. So this weapon here will be our proxy for our chain axe, and this wrecking ball weapon over here will be our proxy for our shock whip. This fighter also comes with a bio booster as well as a stim slug stash, so that way they could use that to re-roll injuries as well as to give them enhanced characteristics when they fight. They also come with the hurl skills. They can pick up people and throw them off the edge of buildings. They also got the overseer skill, which allows them to do double activations for fighters. You're probably not going to use the overseer ability too much on this guy, just because he's going to be using him to do a lot of combat, because that's exactly what he's designed to do. And because he's a survivor archetype, the skill that you'll pick for him will be Nerves of Steel, because let's be honest, this behemoth of a guy is going to be shot at quite a bit by your opponents, because they're going to realize how much of a wrecking ball this guy is. So giving him Nerves of Steel will help him to escape pinning, so that way he can do double actions like charging forward, and that's exactly what you want to use for this guy as well. He's got a pretty decent cool stat, so you should be perfectly fine on that one. Now, one of your champions will be your Shackleman. Now, this guy here with the icon, this guy will be your Shackleman for your gang. Okay, so he has the cult icon, so it kind of works out for him. Now, he's going to be a survivor archetype once again. He's also got a flak armor, so give him a 6-up armor save. And he's going to have a harpoon launcher. Now, the naysayers out there will be like, well, Commander Cheapskate, he doesn't have a harpoon launcher. Well, let's pretend that on his back, he's got these spike things, right? You can just tell your naysayers that, oh, his back's got a pneumatic launching harpoon system that he fires over his shoulders. That's what he uses, because that just sounds dope, for one. And secondly, we're saving money here. My channel name is Commander Cheapskate. I'm not sure what you're expecting to happen on this channel. But anyways, that would be his harpoon launcher. You're going to give him a stub gun for 5 extra credits. And the reason why is because these guys do have holsters, so having that stub gun is going to be nice. Now, the Shackleman does have a 5-up Ballista skill, but that's perfectly fine, though, because if you get within short range of a stub gun, it gives you +2 to hit, so it's going to give him a Ballista skill of 3. He's going to have a shock stave, which are going to be doubling up as a cult icon, which is what this is going to be here. He comes with a disarm skill as well as Nerves of Steel as well. And the reason why you want to put Nerves of Steel on this guy is because, just like your Chain Lord, the Shackleman will be shot at quite a bit, so for him to escape pinning is going to be extremely important for you. Now then, we have our two outcasts. We have our outcast champion. Now this is where our champion comes into effect. This guy's going to cost you 135 credits. He's going to have the brawler archetype as well. You're equipped with mesh armor as well as a chain sword and a chain axe. You're also giving him a stub gun as well as bull charge. That way he's got knockback and +1 strength on his attacks when he charges forward. Now this guy here, this guy looks kind of interesting. He's got like this interesting looking chain sword looking thing, as well as a chain axe over here. So this guy would possibly could be your champion if you wanted to as well. So that kind of separates him from the rest of the pack. And that would be the guy that you'd use for your first champion. Okay, having that knockback ability is really nice. Now, as part of your entourage, you also have 2 pit fighters, pit fighter number 1 and pit fighter number 2. They both cost 120 credits apiece. They both are equipped exactly the same. Both have flak armor, both have chain glaives, both have stim slug stashes, as well as a rain of blows. So that way they can have fight as a simple action, and they can also stim up and, you know, get enhanced stats. Now, for these 2 fighters, I'd recommend using this first guy over here, this guy here with the big, huge, double-handed chainsaw looking thing. That could be one of your pit fighters. And then this guy over here with the chain sword and the chain fist, list, this guy could be your second pit fighter as well, because they're the ones who look different from the rest of the group, so it'll be very easy for you to actually just pick those guys as well. Now then, for your rest of your gang, because your entourage is quite expensive, you're gonna have 2 more Hive Scum. Hive Scum number 1 and Hive Scum number 2 are gonna be equipped exactly the same. Both cost 75 credits. Both will have chain swords, stub guns, as well as smoke grenades, and that could be anybody. That could be this guy here and maybe this guy here, for example. It's up to you how you want to kit them out to assign them for your gang. But that's what they're going to be. They're going to design to run up, throw smoke grenades to protect cover, protect them from actually being attacked, from being shot at. So that's kind of nice. What that does, that pretty much gives you 2 fighters over here, normal outcast scum. You also have 2 pit fighters as well. You have a champion as well as a shackleman and a leader. So these are the guys who will be covering up your gang, which consists of 6 miniatures when you first start out. What that does, it also leaves you 4 more miniatures that you could use to add to your gang as your gang develops and grows in size over time. You equip them with chain swords and chain axes if you want to as well. Make them pack harpoon launchers if you want to. Give them stim slick stashes. You know, the world's your oyster at this point. And this would be an example of like how you could use these guys to become your outcast slave gang for Necromunda. So that's an example of what you could use this box set for. Now, of course, if you decide to go to the Ash Waste and you decide to actually increase your credit rating to 1400 credits, and you're going to go out the Ash Waste, this is exactly the same list I mentioned before. The only difference, of course, is that you will have to buy a vehicle of some sort. In my opinion, make your vehicle a medium vehicle. It's going to cost you 400 credits for that. It's going to be a vehicle that's tracked, so that way you can deal with difficult terrain and cross it pretty easily. Now you do lose 1 point of movement, but that's okay though, because you're going to put nitro burners on your vehicle to give that +1 movement to make it even. You just come with a transport ped as well as extra armor to make it tougher and to transport your fighters. You have all-wheel steering and tire claws to give you +2 to the handling of your vehicle. You have nitro burners to make the speed stay exactly the same as it was before. Smoke vents, so that way your vehicle has a -1 to hit against every single time your opponent tries to shoot you, as well as a harpoon launcher, so that way you can nail people and drag them towards you, which sounds really cool. A boarding ramp for 15 credits, so that way I give you +1 initiative chest to board enemy vehicles. You got headlights in case it's dark outside, and body spikes in case enemies try to board your vehicle. You can repel them with those body spikes. And that's going to cost you 400 credits for that vehicle, fully kitted out, and all the rest of your fighters are exactly the same as the list before it. And that's how I would actually kit these guys out to be used in your games of Necromunda. You could use them specifically for Slaver Outcasts. You could also use them for Corpse Grinders if you want to as well. They do have that Corpse Grinder vibe going on with them as well. You can definitely use them as a Hell Out Chaos Cult gang, just make them a line corn to explain why they're defining the way they are and why they look like that. It could be very, very competitive. Very cool that way as well. You could also use them as Outcast fighters for a Outcast Corpse Grinder Corpse Grinder gang from the Corpse Grinder Guild. So you could also use it for those guys as well. However, though, I feel they would actually make the best in my opinion, the best way to use these guys would be use them as a Slaver Outcast gang, because then that way you have 6 fighters, you got 4 spare to add to your campaign as the campaign develops, and that's exactly how I would use this gang in this box set for your games of Necromunda. Alright you guys, so there you have it. This is exactly how you could go about using this box set of Jakhals, not just for your games of Warhammer 40,000, but you could possibly use them for Warhammer 40,000 boarding actions, kill team, as well as, more importantly, Necromunda. Like I said before, one of the nice things about using box sets like this is finding multiple games to use a single box set for. It's a very cost-effective way of getting into the miniatures wargaming hobby and using it in multiple gaming systems, so that way you can have a flexible time. Because I know some people are out there are real casual about wargaming and they're not looking for a heavy investment in the hobby, so just getting a box set of something like this could actually really get to help you out. In fact, like I said before, this video and the idea that Dr. Drybrush gave me to do this video series is actually inspiring me to look at a lot of the Kill Team box sets and seeing exactly what we could use those for, not only for Kill Team, but for Warhammer 40,000 boarding action, as well as for Necromunda as well. So expect to see a few more of these cheap shots that pop up to show you how you can make the most cost-effective box sets and how you can play the most games with it and how you can go about equipping that and making that happen. So there you guys have it. That's going to do it for this episode of Cheap Shots. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's going to do it for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.